There was a time when men marched off to war and their wives were locked behind iron, literally. Let me take you back to medieval Europe, a time when trust wasn't spoken. It was forged, bolted, and worn uncomfortably close to the skin. You're not even married yet, just a daughter. But your father is already worried about your purity, your future, and what the neighbours might say. So he brings home a chastity belt, heavy, cold, and not made for comfort. He says it's protection, but you wonder if it's punishment. Soon you'll learn this isn't just your story. Wives are being locked up too, their husbands heading to war with swords in hand and keys in their pockets. They'll be gone for months, maybe years, but their wives? Sealed like treasure chests no one's supposed to open. Some say these belts were real, others say they were myths that just refused to die. Either way, they tell a story about fear, control, and the things men will do to feel secure. Before we begin, comment below where you're from and what time it is. I'll like every one of your comments. Now dim your lights, grab your blanket, and close your eyes. And let me take you back to where it all began. You hear it before you see it. A soft jingle, like a coin purse with trust issues. Your father walks in, smiling like he's just solved every problem you'll ever have. Behind him, your mother follows. Less smile, more silent resignation. That's when you notice what's dangling from his hands. It's metal. Lots of it. Curved, hinged, buckled. If a torture device and a horseshoe had a baby, this would be it. He calls it a belt, which is a bold choice. Belts usually hold up trousers. This one holds up centuries of paranoia and deeply repressed fear of women. He sets it down on the table with a clunk that echoes through the room. You lean in, hoping it's just some sort of elaborate cooking pot. It is not. It smells like rust and bad ideas. There are holes in it. For airflow, you guess. Or maybe it's medieval design flair. Either way, there are more gaps than comfort and not nearly enough logic. You're 13. You don't even have your own goat yet, but apparently you need an iron cage for your pelvis. Your father says it's for your safety, which is what people always say right before ruining your year. You try to laugh. No one else does. The fitting is awkward. Of course it is. The belt is cold and your body is very much not designed for it. It scrapes, it pinches, it clanks. You try to sit. Bad idea. You try to breathe deeply. Also bad. Your mother tightens the straps with all the affection of someone tying up a suspicious donkey. The final touch. A small lock. It clicks shut with the kind of theatrical flair that says, "We don't trust you at all, and also we hate fun." Your father pockets the key, doesn't say where he's keeping it. You suspect it's with his sense of reason, wherever that went. Walking is now a musical activity. You clink, you rattle. You sound like a very stressed tambourine. Villagers hear you before they see you. Children ask if you're hiding treasure. You wish you were. Treasure would chafe less. Dinner is an event. You try to sit. You fail to sit. Eventually you hover above the bench like a haunted puppet. No one mentions it. Everyone hears it. The belt digs into your sides with each bite. By the third spoonful, you give up and chew with theatrical sadness. Your father beams with pride. Your mother pours more soup. Night falls. You lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how many saints wore steel panties to bed. You shift. Bad idea. The metal shifts back like it's trying to file you into a new shape. You try sleeping on your stomach. Regret. You try your back. Double regret. You settle for misery. And then, because of course, you have to pee. There's a hole, allegedly, a functional gap they called it. But whoever designed this thing clearly never met an actual human bladder. You crouch over the hole in the outhouse, trying to aim like a cursed fountain statue. You fail. Of course you fail. Everything gets wet except what was supposed to. There's splashback. There's steam. You briefly consider walking into the woods and never coming back, but you're wearing 20 pounds of medieval shame around your hips, so that's probably not happening. Cleaning is, well, you do your best, which isn't much. The cloth tears. The smell lingers. You limp back to bed and lie perfectly still, praying that heaven accepts people who smell like iron and urine. In the morning, your thighs are already red, raw. The edges of the belt have started leaving patterns, floral almost, very chic. If bleeding was fashionable, you'd be on the cover of every peasant fashion scroll. Your mother sees the marks. She nods like this is all going according to plan. You'll get used to it, she says, like it's a new pair of shoes. You won't. Later that day, you go to draw water from the well. The village boys point and snicker. The girls giggle behind their hands. One of them calls you Iron Bottom. It catches on fast. Kids can be cruel, especially when they're not the ones turning their underpants into a blacksmith's project. You try to laugh it off, but every step is a reminder. Every move is a metallic protest. You've stopped feeling like a person. You've started feeling like a drawer no one's allowed to open. And the worst part? This is just day one. The sound follows you. Morning to night, step to step, clink, clink, clink. You could be barefoot in a silent field and still sound like a knight with performance anxiety. You try to walk normally, but the belt has its own rhythm. A rigid, unpleasant rhythm. One that says, this is not your body anymore. This is rented property, and the landlord does random inspections. You go to the well. One of the bucket ropes catches on the edge of your belt as you lean over, and for a second you think, this is it. This is how I die. Pulled head first into a bucket by my own crotch cage. You survive. Barely. You wobble home, bruised in places people aren't supposed to bruise. At lunch, you try to sit on a rock. A mistake. You try a bench. Another mistake. Eventually you just hover, like you're afraid of gravity. Your legs shake. Your mother offers no sympathy. Better this than disgrace, she says, ladling soup into a bowl you can't reach without tipping sideways. Going to the toilet? Let's not even pretend it gets better. You now have a technique. Sort of. A squat and hope method. Some days the aim is close. Most days it's not. The belt is supposed to be functional, but functional depends on who you ask. You suspect the designer was either celibate or incredibly bitter. You learn to rinse yourself with water from the rain barrel. It's cold. Very cold. It stings when it touches the open sores. You no longer ask why you have sores. You just try to avoid looking too closely. You develop a certain posture, a chastity posture, hunched forward slightly, legs never too far apart, movements slow, deliberate. You've become your own warning sign. You once overheard a traveller describe women as delicate flowers. You wonder if flowers ever wore iron. The blacksmith's apprentice stares at you sometimes, not with lust, with professional curiosity, like he's admiring a particularly complicated lock. At night the belt gets tighter, not because it's adjusted, but because your body swells around it. Pressure builds, skin breaks. There's a rash on your hip now that looks suspiciously like Italy. Not that you've seen a map, but still. You try asking your mother if it's normal. She nods. It'll callus over, she says, like she's talking about feet. You no longer dream of love. You dream of keys, of unlocking, of cool air touching your skin. One day, during chores, you drop a pail. You bend to pick it up. The belt slices into your thigh. A clean cut. You bleed. Not a lot, but enough to remind you that iron has no sympathy. You mutter a curse under your breath. Your mother hears. Better a cut than a child out of wedlock, she snaps. It's meant to comfort you. It doesn't. That evening your younger brother tries to sneak a peek at the belt. You slap him. He cries. You cry too, but privately. Later he tells the neighbour boys what he saw. The next day they ask if you're part night. You say yes, because the truth is worse. You're not allowed to take it off, not even to bathe. Instead, you're expected to wash around it, with a cloth, carefully, quietly, like it's some sacred relic that gets offended if touched too quickly. You discover a trick. If you soak in warm water, the burning eases for a while, but water is scarce. Warm water, even more so. You ration your comfort in tin cups. You smell of iron, of sweat, of rot sometimes. But no one says anything out loud. That's the rule. Don't complain, don't comment, don't question the clinking girl with rust-stained underthings. Eventually you give up trying to sit on anything hard. You sit on hay, if available, piles of clothing, bread dough once by accident. You still ate the bread. But here's the part they never told you. The worst isn't the pain. It's the permanence. The quiet knowledge that this is it. This is your life now. Not just for a week, or a season. Forever. Or until someone with a key decides you're ready to be unlocked. And until then, you walk, you clink, you sit on pillows, you pray nothing gets infected, you learn how to cry without moving your face, you memorize the sound of rust, you become a sound before you are a person, and everyone hears you coming. You grow. That's the problem. Your body stretches, softens, reshapes itself, just as it's meant to. But the belt? The belt was made for your younger self, a smaller self, a version of you that didn't bleed monthly or swell with new curves or need more space to exist. The belt does not adapt, it does not forgive, it digs in deeper. Where once it merely chafed, now it cuts, not dramatically, not enough to scream, just enough to sting, a dull, constant scrape, like your skin is being filed down slowly, day after day. You imagine a craftsman somewhere polishing a piece of wood for years, only you're the wood. The gap where you relieve yourself now feels smaller, or maybe it's you who's changed shape. Either way, accidents become frequent and painful. Urine hits raw skin, sores bloom like unholy flowers. You learn to stop reacting. The pain is no longer new, it's a roommate. The rash on your hip has become permanent. It has layers, textures, a whole personality. You've named it Sirichalor. You joke sometimes, in your head, quietly, because humour is the last thing they haven't locked up. Your period arrives. Of course it does. The belt isn't designed for this. No one thought that far ahead. Or maybe they did and simply didn't care. The blood pools, drips awkwardly. It stains everything but escapes nothing. You try stuffing cloth into the belt's narrow openings. It helps. Sometimes. Mostly it just shifts and leaks and feels like failure. You ask your mother again if this is normal. She says yes, but she won't look at you. Her belt's long gone now. Her scars remain. But she never speaks of them. You begin to realize this isn't protection. It's inheritance. You still walk to the well every day, still clink, still jingle like the world's least festive sleigh. But now the belt squeaks a little. It's begun to rust where sweat meets steel. You scrub it with vinegar and salt, just like you were taught. It doesn't help much. You smell like a night left out in the rain. The blacksmith's apprentice has stopped staring. That was the one perk of the belt. Boys kept their distance. Now they look through you. You're a locked door and no one's interested in finding the key. You hear rumours. Other girls removing their belts in secret. One used a saw. Another bribed a priest. You want to ask how, but you also don't want to know, because knowledge brings temptation. And temptation? Well, that's how you got in this mess in the first place. Church services are hard, not because of faith, because of kneeling. The belt presses against your belly when you bow. It feels like being folded around a blade. You start praying standing up. No one comments. They all know. You get used to thinking about yourself in parts. This part is mine. This part hurts. This part used to feel like me. This part hasn't been touched by air in years. You start to forget what skin feels like. The sensation of cloth brushing your hip. The lightness of being bare. You dream of it sometimes. Waking dreams. Imaginary baths in sunlit rivers. Floating weightlessly without iron strapped to your thighs. Then you wake up, and you hear it. Clink. The weight is still there, you're still closed. One morning you wake with a fever. Not a big one. Just enough to make your bones feel like wet cloth. You try to sit up. The belt pulls. The sores weep. You bite your tongue and keep moving. You don't mention it to anyone. Illness is weakness. Weakness is shame. Shame is scandal. And scandal? That's why the belt is there in the first place. The fever lasts 3 days. You never stop working. You learn to move differently. You pivot from the hips. You hold your skirts slightly higher so they don't catch on the metal. You've stopped wearing certain shoes. Sandals chafe against the straps. Boots dig into the lower edge of the belt. You start favouring bare feet, even in winter. Better frostbite than another blister. At night you lie on your side, curled just right, one hand resting on the belt, not to remove it, just to feel it. Sometimes you wonder if your bones have begun to mould around it. You wonder if it will ever come off without breaking you. You used to think the belt was a sentence. Now you know better. It's a second skin, and it never asked to be peeled. You once caught your reflection in a window, not your face, just your shape, the outline of your dress against your hips, the bulge of metal beneath the fabric. You didn't recognize yourself. For a moment, you thought it was someone else, someone older, sadder. It was you. You try not to think about how long it's been. Days blur, seasons shift. You mark time by the sound the belt makes on different floors. Tile is sharp, dirt is soft, wood echoes, grass barely sings. You once laughed when a neighbour dropped a loaf of bread. It was your first laugh in weeks. It startled your father. He looked at you like he'd heard something forbidden. Maybe he had. You are growing, still. But the belt? It doesn't. It starts with a glance, then a visit, then more visits, then your mother smoothing your hair with hands that smell like cabbage and compromise. A suitor. You're of age now, apparently. Whatever that means in a village where your body has been classified as emergency storage since you were 13. His name is Thomas, or Tomasz. Or maybe you just misheard the first time and never had the courage to ask again. He has teeth, most of them, and he smiles like he's never had to wear anything heavier than wool. He brings you flowers, you bring your belt, you sit across from each other in the kitchen. The chairs creak. You creak louder. He doesn't comment, which is polite. Or maybe he just thinks you're carrying tools under your dress, which, in a way, you are. He asks what you like to do. You consider your options, bleed quietly, pee inaccurately, count rashes. You say, I like embroidery. Everyone likes embroidery. It's the safest lie in the world. You shift in your seat. Bad idea. The belt presses up into your stomach. You suppress a wince. Smile. Squeeze your hands together in your lap like you're demure, not just trying to keep from slicing yourself in half. Tomasz tells a joke. Something about a goose and a bishop. You laugh on reflex. The belt shifts again. Pain blooms behind your knees. You wonder how many relationships begin with internal bruising. He seems nice, that's what everyone says. He's nice. He has a good family. He's not too old. He's not too drunk. The bar is low. You trip over it constantly. Your parents talk about dowry next. Your mother glances at your waist, then away. You know what she's thinking. You know she knows what it means to lift your dress and hear a clang. The wedding is small. Your dress is long. Your smile is longer. Everything feels heavy. Except the vows. Those are light and sweet and completely irrelevant. Because after the bread is broken and the hands are shaken, it's just you, him, and the key. The bedroom smells like rosemary and linen. He fumbles with the lock. It's not romantic. It's mechanical. You feel like a chest being opened, or a barn, or a cursed door. The key scrapes. The lock resists. For a brief moment you think it won't open, that this is it, your wedding night, and you'll be just as locked as you were the day before. But it clicks. Of course it clicks. The belt comes off. It leaves a red band around your hips, like a birthmark made of shame. You feel lighter, but not free. He sees the marks, doesn't ask, just proceeds. Gently at first, then not. It's not awful, but it's not what the songs promised. You'd imagined fireworks, or at least candlelight and sighing. Instead, it's fumbling and apologies and the sound of your own skin creaking after years of confinement. When it's over, you lie still. He pats your shoulder like a teammate, and then he locks it again. You hear the click before you even realize what's happening. He says something about travel, about being gone a while, about safety. You nod. Because what else is there to do? Object. You're a wife now. Congratulations. Your body has changed owners, but not status. Back on goes the belt. Still the same, still unforgiving. You try to protest. He says, you're too precious. You want to say, I'm not jewellery, but your voice won't come. He pockets the key, kisses your forehead, says he'll return before winter. You watch him ride away, hips sore, thighs stinging, iron once again sealed over your softness. You wave. The metal bites into your waist with each shift, and then you're alone. Again. Except this time, the silence is heavier. You go back to daily life, only now you're a wife. Which means you're still expected to cook, carry, scrub and fetch water, just with added matronly dignity, whatever that means. You sit on the edge of the bed and feel the belt press against your spine. You try to remember what skin feels like without pressure. You fail. At the market, women talk about their husbands. You stay quiet. Your husband is somewhere near the border, or maybe in a city. Or maybe he's dead. Honestly, you're not sure which option you prefer. You dream of the night it came off, not the act, just the moment right before, the feeling of air brushing your skin, of iron lifting, of freedom, however brief. Sometimes when you're alone, you reach down and trace the edge of the belt. You wonder what it would feel like to break it, not to remove it, to destroy it. Smash it under a cartwheel, melt it in a forge, feed it to the goats. But you don't, because you don't have the key, and without the key you are what you've always been. Locked, owned, and waiting. He doesn't come back before winter, or spring, or the one after that. The first few weeks you check the road. You listen for hoofbeats. You rehearse how you'll greet him. Cheerful, dignified, maybe with just a touch of, please don't relock me. But after a month you stop looking. After 2 you stop pretending you care, but the belt remains, always. It never leaves. Even as your skin breaks down beneath it, even as the lock gathers dirt, even as your body forgets what freedom felt like. You're a wife now, but only technically, legally, ironically. You haven't been touched in years, except by rust. The belt, you discover, has moods. On hot days it chafes. On cold ones it stiffens like an old grudge. On rainy days it stinks. Somewhere between wet dog and regret. It has absorbed you, moulded to your movements. It's no longer just an object, it's a habit, a parasite, a second spine. You try oiling it with goose fat. It helps a little, but then your thighs smell like dinner. Your neighbours stop asking when he'll return. They assume he's dead or you're abandoned. One woman suggests remarriage. You laugh so hard it hurts your ribs. I can't even get remarried without bolt cutters, you say. She doesn't laugh. You develop new rituals, scrubbing the belt clean with vinegar and salt, drying it near the fire, careful not to warp the metal, padding the edges with scraps of wool. Nothing really works, but it's something to do, something to pretend you're still in charge of something. You avoid mirrors now, not because of vanity, but because there's nothing left to see. Your hips are ringed with deep red lines. The skin is hard there, shiny in places, cracked in others. You wonder if bones can bruise permanently. You're afraid to ask. Your periods are worse now, heavier, less regular. You think something might be wrong, internally, but who would check? Who would even try? The belt has rusted in places you can't reach. Orange patches bloom like rot on an apple. The lock sticks sometimes. You wiggle it each night out of habit, like someone trying a door they already know is sealed. You think often about the key, where it is, who has it, whether it's buried with him in a ditch somewhere, or tied around his neck as he flirts with barmaids in another village. You imagine the belt fused to your bones, a blacksmith prying it off with tongs, a priest blessing it while your skin splits underneath, or maybe you'll die in it, lowered into the ground like a medieval sardine. Sometimes when you're alone in the garden, you hold your breath and pretend you're light, that if you let go hard enough, you'll float out of it, upward, away from the clink, the pinch, the ache, just escape. Then you sneeze and the belt stabs your hip and reality returns. You once tried wedging a stick into the hinge, just to see, just to try. It snapped. You nearly broke your finger. You buried the evidence under the henhouse and told no one. That night, you dreamed of freedom. The next morning you bled. Your dreams have changed. They used to be about love. Now they're about doors, locked doors, endless hallways, keys that never fit. One night you wake to a fever, not the small kind, the real kind. Skin hot, vision fuzzy. You curl into a ball and the belt bites your stomach. You lie on the floor for hours, too weak to move, too stubborn to cry for help. When your mother finally finds you, you can barely speak. She sits beside you, quiet, for a long time. Then she says something you'll never forget. "I wore mine for 5 years," she whispers. "When your father went to sea, I thought he was dead. I prayed he was dead, but he came back," she pauses, "and so did the key." You ask her if it ever stops hurting. She says, "You get used to the pain. You don't get used to being locked. You recover eventually, but the fever leaves something behind. Your body is weaker, your skin more tender. The sores take longer to heal. Some days you limp. The belt doesn't care, the belt is forever. One afternoon you find a bird trapped in the storeroom. It flutters against the window, desperate, stupid with panic. You shoo it toward the door. It hesitates, then escapes. You stand in the silence that follows and feel a deep, sick envy. Later that week you hear church bells, a funeral. No one tells you whose. You wonder if it's your husband. You wonder if it matters. You sit in your corner of the house, hands folded in your lap, belt biting into your thighs, wondering what it would take to be unburied while still alive. And through it all, the silence, the rot, the waiting, you stay locked. Not for love, not for honour, but because someone, somewhere, still thinks you need guarding, like treasure or a secret. It ends, not with a key, but with a knock. One dull morning, somewhere between your third coughing fit and another unsuccessful attempt to squat without slicing your thigh, someone is at the door. You barely notice at first. The chickens are louder, but your mother answers and suddenly there are voices, men's voices, boots on floorboards. You freeze. It's him, your husband, years older, wetter, slightly rounder in the face. He smells like travel and vinegar and distant regret. His hands are blistered. His beard looks like it's been in at least 2 fistfights. He doesn't embrace you. He doesn't kneel or apologize or fall to his knees sobbing, "Oh my darling, how I've missed you." He just says, "I've brought the key." You stare at it like it's a ghost, like it's dangerous. He holds it out. You don't move. Your mother excuses herself to the garden, and suddenly it's just you, your rusted belt, and the man who once called you precious before locking you like a barn. He asks if you want help. You almost laugh. Almost. Instead, you nod. The key slides in. It sticks. Of course it sticks. It's been years. The lock coughs, wheezes, protests like an old man getting out of a too small chair, and then, click. The belt comes loose. It doesn't fall. It clings, peels away slowly, stubborn as memory. Your skin beneath is a horror story. Scabs, scars, skin rubbed shiny from years of pressure. Red lines like tree rings, chronicling every season of pain. You are marked, permanently, like an old map of a place no one should visit. You don't cry, you don't feel anything at all. Your husband sets the belt on the table and clears his throat. "We can take things slow." You nod. But what you want to say is, too late. The bed that night feels too soft, the air too bold. Every draft touches places that haven't seen the sun in years. You try to sleep. He doesn't touch you. You're grateful for that. You think you'd break. In the morning, you stare at your reflection. Really stare. The girl who wore the belt is gone. In her place, someone older, quieter, wiser in all the worst ways. You touch your hip where the metal used to rest. The skin is different, thinner, scarred, but it's yours again. Your mother sees you dressing and smiles. "You'll feel better soon," she says. But you don't. Not really. Because the truth is the belt isn't gone. Not fully. It's in the way you walk, in the way you flinch when someone opens a door too quickly, in the way you can't stand the sound of keys rattling. It's in your bones. Years pass. The belt is never mentioned. It lives in the attic now, wrapped in cloth, hidden behind old sacks of grain and your mother's mourning dresses. You hear it sometimes when the wind blows just right. Clink, clink, a ghost in iron. People say it was a tradition, a precaution, a myth, but you know better. One day, a travelling collector comes through the village. He's looking for antiques, medieval oddities, he says with a wink. You say nothing. But your mother tells him about the belt. He gasps. One of the originals? How fascinating. You smile, a thin one. He asks if he can display it in his museum. You nod. Of course. What harm can it do now? They clean it, polish it, remove the rust, display it under glass with the little card. Chastity belt, used in medieval Europe to protect female virtue, likely ceremonial, rare. Visitors laugh, roll their eyes, take pictures. Can you imagine wearing one of those? One girl says. You could. You did. You visit sometimes. Stand in front of the glass and look at the thing that once owned your body. It looks smaller now, almost delicate, like it couldn't possibly have done what it did, but your hips still ache in the rain. You still wake some nights clutching your stomach, expecting to feel cold iron where only skin remains. You don't tell anyone. Because the truth is, it wasn't just the belt. It was everything that came with it. The silence, the fear, the rules, the shame, the way everyone looked the other way while you jingled past like a prisoner on parade. You were not protected, you were controlled, and now you are free. Mostly. You still flinch at certain noises, you still avoid tight clothes, you still sleep curled on your side out of habit, but you smile more, you breathe easier. And when girls in the village whisper about iron underwear, you don't correct them. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them believe it was just a myth. Because if they knew the truth, they'd never sleep again. Now I'll tell you another story. There was a time when headaches were fixed with a drill, when a hole in your head wasn't a mistake, it was the treatment. Welcome to the Holy Age, when doctors wore robes, blamed demons for illness, and thought a crank and a chisel could cure your mind. You're lying on a wooden bench that smells like blood and melted wax. Your hands are tied, your heart's racing. Across from you, someone screams as a bearded man calmly drills into his skull, like he's slicing bread. You try to stay calm. They say this will make you better. Before we begin, comment below where you're from and what time it is. I'll like every one of your comments. Now dim your lights, grab your blanket, and close your eyes. And step into a time when brain surgery meant just one thing, a hole. You're not in your room anymore. You've gone back to northern France, the year is 1259, and the world is colder than you imagined. The wind never stops, the roads are thick with mud, and the roofs leak no matter how much straw you pack on top. You live in a one-room house that smells as damp wood, smoke, and onions. A fire burns low in the corner, and the walls are streaked with soot. You own 2 shirts, 1 bowl, and a wooden spoon that's been chewed at the edge by a neighbour's goat. Life is rough, but it's what you know. At first, everything goes well enough. You wake up early, tend the chickens, carry buckets of water from the stream. You eat bread so hard it could chip a tooth, but you chew it anyway. You joke with neighbours, gossip about who's late to mass, and keep track of whose pig wandered where. Your hands are rough and your back is sore, but that's expected. Pain is just part of the background. But something starts to shift. It's small at first. A strange heaviness behind your eyes, tightness in your chest, a flicker in your thoughts that feels just a little off. You begin waking up before the sun, heart pounding for no reason. Or you sleep through the morning and feel more tired than before. You cry sometimes, and you don't know why. You forget things. You startle easily. You find yourself staring at walls for too long. The headaches come next, sharp, constant, like something is pressing from the inside. You don't say anything at first. Everyone feels strange sometimes, but it doesn't stop. It gets worse. The world begins to feel distant, as if it's happening behind a sheet of glass. You hear things that aren't there, a knock that no one else hears, a whisper behind your shoulder. Your hands shake when you try to carry the water bucket. You drop things. You mutter to yourself. Soon people start to notice. The woman who sells onions frowns when you pass. Children stop asking you to help fix the cart. Someone begins leaving small bundles of herbs outside your door, not as a gift, but as a warning. The priest looks at you too long during Mass. The space around you slowly grows wider, colder. Something is wrong with you, and everyone knows it. One morning, 2 figures arrive at your door. One wears a robe, old and thick, smelling of incense and wax. The other wears a stained apron and carries a leather bag that clinks when he walks. They don't speak to you. They don't need to. The decision has already been made. You're led down the muddy path behind the chapel, toward a small wooden hut that you've only ever heard about. The air grows still as you approach. Inside it's dark and close. The smell is heavy. Candle grease, old blood, and damp cloth. A bench sits in the middle of the room, low and narrow. A single candle burns near the tools, casting long, twitching shadows. You're guided onto the bench. The wood creaks beneath you. Your hands are tied, not harshly but firmly, as if this part is just routine. The man in the apron hums as he lays out his tools, a curved knife, a small saw, a circular hand drill with a wooden handle, worn smooth by use. There is no question, no pause. This is the treatment. A damp cloth is pressed to your scalp. The knife comes next, slicing through the skin with practiced ease. The air is cold on your skull. The man scrapes at the bone with a curved blade, marking the point where the drill will begin. There's no anesthesia, just the smell of wine and a steady hand. The drill bites in slowly, its metal tip turning with each twist of the crank. At first it grinds, then it grates, then it clicks. The pain is sharp, then dull, then sharp again. You feel the pressure building, your pulse pounding in your ears, and somewhere in the distance the hum of the surgeon continues, steady and soft, as if he's boring a hole into wood, not bone. Warmth spreads across your forehead, blood thick and slow. You can't move, you can barely think. And still the drill turns, not fast, not deep, just enough. When the drill stops, there's a pause, a breathless stillness. A cloth is pressed against your scalp. The hole is real now, open, exposed. Your thoughts feel lighter, maybe, or maybe you're just slipping away. The priest moves to your side. You feel the pressure of a hand against your chest, the faint rhythm of a chant, not for healing, for peace. The cloth tightens, the light flickers. You don't know if it worked, but you're alive, for now. It's hard to explain what's wrong, not because there aren't signs, there are plenty, but because the year is 1259 and your words are limited. You don't have phrases like mental illness or neurological disorder. You don't talk about stress, trauma, anxiety, serotonin or sleep cycles. Those aren't concepts that exist yet. What you have instead are feelings, and those feelings are dangerous. You've seen it happen before. People change little by little. They start speaking strangely, laughing too long at nothing, falling asleep in the middle of the day, or flinching when someone speaks too loudly. Some talk to shadows, some forget their own names, and others just stop talking altogether. The village always notices. It's hard not to when life is so quiet and slow. Whispers spread quickly, faster than the sickness itself. What happens next is rarely kind. At first, there's pity. Someone brings bread. Someone else suggests prayer. The priest visits more often, but if it continues, if the odd behaviour lingers, then the concern becomes fear. The sick are no longer seen as unwell. They're seen as dangerous, unclean, cursed, or worse, possessed. You've begun to fit into that category. It didn't happen all at once. First came the exhaustion, the kind that no sleep could fix. Then the headaches, dull, pulsing, constant. They moved from the front of your head to the back, then behind your eyes. Light made them worse. Noise made them unbearable. Then your appetite vanished. You started skipping meals, not from lack of food, but from the heaviness in your stomach. You sat by the fire for hours staring into the ash, thinking about nothing and everything at once. Then the thoughts changed. You forgot things, simple things, where you left your shoes, whether or not you'd spoken to someone that day. You stopped noticing the weather. Some nights you couldn't sleep at all. Other nights you slept so deeply that you didn't hear the rooster crow until midday. You began to cry in your sleep, and then, during the day. These weren't things you could hide. You tried. But the human body doesn't always follow orders, especially when something is going wrong inside the mind. You slurred your words. You twitched. You muttered under your breath when you thought no one was around. But someone always was. There's no such thing as privacy in a medieval village. The priest began watching you more closely, not with compassion, with calculation. He'd seen this before, he'd read about it. Spirits could enter the mind and make a person behave in unnatural ways. Some demons were subtle, whispering doubts, fear, or sadness. Others were loud and violent, turning calm people into strangers. The only way to fix it was to release them, or cut them out. The surgeon, if you could call him that, believed in humours. 4 substances ruled the body: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If one was too strong or too weak, the whole system failed. People became sick, or angry, or forgetful, or sad. If you had too much black bile, it made you melancholic. If your head was full of bad air, it made you mad. A hole in the skull, they said, let the badness out. It was like opening a window in a stifling room. So the symptoms didn't need to be clear. They just needed to be strange. Shaking hands, blank stares, mood swings, seizures, if you were unlucky, speaking in tongues, if the rumours were true, and sometimes nothing at all. Just being born different could be enough. You've heard villagers speak of others like you, a boy in the next town who screamed at night until he passed out, a woman who sat naked in the fields, weaving flowers into her hair in the middle of winter, a quiet man who stopped speaking one day and never started again. Each of them ended up on a bench, under a blade, with a hole in the skull. It's easy to say they were wrong, that they didn't understand. But in 1259, this was understanding. This was medicine. A body was a vessel. If it was broken, you patched it. If it was cursed, you bled it. And if something inside was poisoning the rest, then you let it out. There was even logic to it in a way. The pressure in your head feels unbearable. Sometimes, when the pain is too much, you think of pressing your fingers into your temples until something gives. You wonder if cutting into your skull would actually help, and you're not alone. Some believe trepanning brought relief. Some said it saved lives. Some even asked for it. Not all holes were forced, but that doesn't make it better. You lie in bed, not quite asleep, not quite awake, listening to the silence press in from the walls. You can feel the weight of your own thoughts, heavy, loud, crooked. You wonder if it would stop, if the hole would fix it, if the pain would drain out like water from a bucket. Outside, the village is quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after decisions have already been made. In the year 1259, there are no hospitals where you live, no waiting rooms, no white coats, no shelves lined with bottles or blinking machines. Medicine is not a science here, it's a trade. And your life, if it depends on anything, now rests in the hands of a man who sharpens razors and drains pus for a living. He's called a barber surgeon. It's not a nickname, it's his job. He cuts hair, he lances boils, he sets broken bones, extracts teeth, trims beards, applies leeches, and, when things get serious, he drills holes in skulls. One profession, one toolkit, one bloody apron. He has no formal training, no lectures attended, no certificates pinned to the wall. What he has is a collection of sharp tools, thick hands, and years of watching people squirm beneath them. His knowledge comes from experience, passed down through demonstration, not study. There's no anatomy textbook, just memory. The body is a sack of blood and pressure. Open it wrong, and things spill out. Open it right, and maybe someone walks away. He keeps his tools in a leather pouch. The edges are worn smooth from use. Inside are blades with wooden handles, bone saws dulled at the tips, cloth strips darkened from past attempts. Some are rusted. Others still gleam when they catch the candlelight. He doesn't clean them between patients. There's no reason to. Germs haven't been invented yet. His workspace is a wooden table pushed against the wall of a low smoky room. One candle burns near the window. The floor is packed earth. The chair you'll sit in, if you're lucky enough not to lie flat, is stained with old blood, wax, and something that looks like broth. He carries himself with confidence, but not kindness. This is not a man who explains things gently. He doesn't need to. By the time you come to him, your options are few, and your choices don't matter much. The village already decided that your mind needs fixing. He's here to open the door and let whatever's trapped inside out. His robe is brown, smudged with grease and ash. His fingers are thick and calloused. He smells of sweat, old wine, and damp wool. He does not blink much. His eyes scan your face, but not with concern, more like a craftsman sizing up a damaged chair before he starts sawing off the legs. He is not cruel. He is not kind. He is necessary. You try to look for signs of understanding in his face, some hint that he knows you're afraid. But fear is not something he deals with. He deals with flesh, bone, and pressure. He's learned that if you flinch, he holds tighter. If you cry, he waits. If you scream, he keeps going. The result is the same. He lays his tools out carefully, each one placed with the rhythm of habit. The curved knife, the scraper, the drill, a small cloth soaked in something sour-smelling, probably wine. There's no pain relief, just distraction. Maybe someone will hold your hand. Maybe someone will hold you down. He hums sometimes, wordless, not cheerful, not grim. Just noise to fill the space while he works. It's better than silence. Some say he's saved lives. Others say he's taken them, but no one says it to his face. The village needs him. Without him, broken legs stay broken, infections spread, teeth rot in the jaw until the pain drives people mad. And when madness itself comes, when something curls into the mind and warps it, he's the one they bring it to, like an offering. And now, you're the offering. You watch him sharpen a blade on a worn stone. Sparks flicker, briefly lighting his expression. Focused. Calm. like he's done this hundreds of times. Maybe he has. There is no ceremony, no preparation, no soothing hands or reassuring words. You'll lie on the bench, he'll tie your wrists, and the rest will happen, because that's what has always happened. It's not medicine as you understand it, but in this age, it's the only kind there is. The year is 1259, and the hole in your skull feels like the end of something, the end of comfort, of reason, of whatever you used to call yourself before your thoughts became too loud to hold inside. But here's the strange part. This moment, this sharp turn into fear and blood isn't new. It's not even recent. You're part of something ancient now. Long before the church bells of France rang over muddy villages, before the robes and the candles and the humming barber surgeon, people were already doing this. Not with metal tools or theory about humours, but with flint blades, seashell scrapers, and nothing but ritual, instinct and belief. The hole in your head is a tradition, one that's older than writing, older than cities, older than language as you know it. Somewhere in what is now France, perhaps not far from where you lie, archaeologists will one day uncover a skull with a clean, circular opening carved right into the top. It will be dated to around 7000 BCE. That's more than 8,000 years before your moment on the bench, and it won't be alone. Skulls like this will be found all over the world, in Peru, in Russia, in Africa. From high mountain graves to sun-baked deserts. The work is different, but the hole is always there. No one knows for sure why they did it. The theories vary, and none are confirmed. Some think it was to treat injuries, head trauma from battle or a fall. Others believe it's a spiritual, an attempt to release something trapped inside. Bad spirits, bad luck, bad dreams. There's even the idea that it marked a rite of passage, or gave someone power, letting something in, not just out. What's certain is that some of them survived. That's how we know it wasn't always fatal. On many skulls, the edges of the bone show signs of healing, new growth, slow and lumpy. These weren't just corpses with holes. These were people who walked around afterward, alive, changed, and perhaps respected. Imagine it, sitting by the fire in a Neolithic camp, your head freshly opened, the air still cool against your exposed bone. Others look at you differently now, not with pity, but with reverence. You're marked, touched. You've undergone something few dare to face. Maybe the pain is less now. Maybe your dreams are quieter. Or maybe they've just changed into something harder to name. The tools back then were brutal by today's standards. No steel, no antiseptic, just sharpened rock, animal bones, or heated bronze. The scraping method was most common. A slow, rhythmic grinding against the skull to wear down the bone until it cracked or flaked away. No sudden pressure, no split-second slicing. Just hours of steady abrasion, a fire nearby, the scent of herbs, maybe chanting, maybe silence. The line between medicine and ritual was thin, if it existed at all. In ancient Peru, trepanning became almost an art. Some skulls have multiple holes, done at different times, each one carefully placed. In one case, 7 trepanations on the same skull. 7. The person lived long enough for each one to heal. They were survivors, walking relics, and perhaps even healers themselves. You don't get that kind of tolerance without a society that believes in what it's doing. Some cultures painted the skull afterward, or filled the hole with metal, clay or shells. Some kept the skulls of the dead with trepanation as sacred objects, evidence that the spirit had been freed, or tamed, or altered. In other parts of the world, trepanning wasn't about healing at all. It was punishment, a curse, a last resort to stop someone from screaming, attacking, or drawing attention to themselves. A hole wasn't just a cure, it was a warning. You're marked now. Stay quiet. Stay strange. But stay useful. What you're going through in 1259 is just a continuation of all this. The tools have changed, slightly. The explanations has grown more elaborate, but the act is the same. Someone sees behaviour they don't understand. A ritual or belief tells them the cause must be inside, and the solution somehow is to open the head and let it out. The barber surgeon may not know about the Neolithic skulls. He probably doesn't care, but he's carrying the same flame passed down through centuries. Maybe it's shaped by church doctrine now. Maybe it's framed with talk of demons, sins, or imbalance. But deep down it's still the same primitive urge. Open the body, fix the soul. You're not special in your suffering, and somehow that's worse. It means this has happened thousands of times. It means your pain is old, familiar, accepted. But you're also part of something larger. A long, bloody line of people who laid down, stared at the ceiling, and felt the bite of a tool against their skulls, not knowing if it would be their end or their release. You lie in your small bed, your head bandaged, the scent of wine and iron still clinging to your skin. Outside, life continues. Chickens squabble, the fire crackles, a neighbour coughs. No one asks how you feel. No one needs to. They've seen the cloth on your head. They know what it means. You've joined the ancient ranks of the trepanned. You've been opened. And what happens next is up to time. It starts with the bench, the same one others have laid on before you, wooden, hard, stained with things that no cloth ever washed away. You don't get a pillow. You don't get a choice. Your back meets the timber, and already you feel it pressing into your spine like it's trying to remember your shape for later. The room is dim, the air thick. One candle flickers in the corner, barely holding back the shadows. Somewhere there's a basin of water. It hasn't been changed since the last patient. It won't be changed after you. The barber surgeon works quietly, not from compassion, but from routine. His hands move like this isn't a person in front of him, but a task. A bowl to patch, a wheel to carve, a piece of meat with something stuck inside. You feel the tug of cloth around your wrists as he ties you down, not too tight, just enough to keep you from interrupting the work. There's no conversation, no comfort. The ritual is mechanical. He checks the tools, places them just so, then looks at you not as a patient but as an object that is, for the moment, alive. First, your hair must go. He soaks a rag in wine and rubs your scalp. It stings. The alcohol seeps into your skin like it's trying to warn you of what's coming. Then the razor, dull, quick strokes that drag more than they cut. Hair falls in clumps. Your head feels suddenly colder, exposed. You can feel the breeze coming in through the cracks in the wall. Then comes the knife. He parts the skin with care, cutting a small crescent at the top of your skull. The sensation is strange, sharp but not immediate. More like your body registering something it shouldn't. A pressure, a wetness, a line of fire that grows wider with every motion. Once the flap of skin is peeled back, he places it to the side. It will be put back later, probably. Now the bone is bare, white, dull, slightly porous like it was never meant to be seen. He takes up the scraper, a curved bit of metal worn smooth at the edges. He begins to scrape the top of your skull in circles, wearing away the outer layer. Not fast, just steady. Over and over, like someone carving initials into a rock. You can hear it. A dry, chalky sound. Your teeth ache with every stroke. Then the drill. It's not the kind you know today. It's hand-powered. A wooden handle, a metal shaft, and a crank that turns the sharp tip slowly, deliberately, with each twist of the wrist. He places it against the spot he scraped, then begins to turn. At first, it doesn't hurt, just pressure. Your scalp shifts with every turn. The drill bites in gradually, grinding its way through outer bone. Then, as it sinks deeper, the pressure becomes pain. Deep, internal, like a scream with no sound. Your whole body tries to flinch, but the ropes hold you still. Your eyes water. Your jaw clenches. You try to breathe through your nose, but everything feels wrong. Your heart is loud now. So loud you think the surgeon might stop and check if something else is happening. He doesn't. He just keeps turning. The smell changes. A mix of wine, blood, sweat, and something else. Bone dust. Warm and strange, like burning teeth. You want to move. You want to leave. You want to vanish. But you can't. Eventually he stops. There's no sudden release. No dramatic gush. Just a hollow ache that spreads across your face like a cold wave. The drill is removed. The hole is there. Exposed. Fragile. Sometimes he might place something over it. A bit of cloth, soaked in herbs or oil. Sometimes not. You won't know until later, if there is a later. If you're bleeding too much, he presses cloth into your head until it slows. If you pass out, someone might shake you, or they might wait to see if you come back on your own. There are no stitches, no antiseptic, no comforting words or follow-up plan. You might be given a piece of bread. You might be sent home to sleep. If your family is kind, they'll keep your head clean. If they're not, they'll hope the hole worked and stop asking questions. For some, this is the end of the pain. For others, it's the beginning of something worse. Fever, infection, confusion. But right now, none of that matters. Right now, you lie still, the air brushing the raw edge of your skull, and you wonder if whatever was inside has finally left. Outside, the wind rattles the shutters. The candle burns low. The bench creaks as you breathe. You've been opened, and whether it helped or not, the work is done. You lie in bed for days after, maybe longer. Time blurs when you can't stand up without the room spinning. The cloth on your head is changed when someone remembers. Your meals are small, bread soaked in broth, water if you're lucky. The fever comes and goes. Some days you sweat, some days you shiver. No one says much. They just wait. And slowly, something happens. Maybe the headaches soften. Maybe the noise in your head becomes quiet, or at least quieter than before. Or maybe you're just too tired now to feel much of anything. Either way, the village notices. You're not screaming. You're not crying. You're eating again, even if it's slow. That's enough. They start to believe the whole worked. That's how it spreads. Not through science, not through proof, but through the quiet stories people pass along in whispers. He was worse before, they say. She used to be uncontrollable. Now look at her. Calm. Still. Not entirely well, but better. And better, in this time, is enough. You hear your own name spoken differently now. Not with fear, but with approval. You went through it. You survived. That alone makes you something between lucky and strong. Not everyone does. You know that. But you did. And so the others, those who still suffer, begin to wonder if maybe the same hole could help them too. It's easy to believe in something that has no other explanation. A person is sick. A hole is made. The sickness seems to lessen. There's no microscope to prove anything, no test to measure results. All they have are stories and bodies, and you're one of them. The priest says it let out the demon, that the evil spirit was given a door and it took it. The surgeon says it balanced the humours, that the pressure is gone now, that your blood can move properly, that your mind is no longer clogged. Neither of them really knows, but both are sure, and in a way so are you. Because there's power in thinking something helped. Pain is as much belief as it is biology. If the ritual was terrifying, but you feel lighter afterward, it's easy to give the credit to the blade, or the hole, or the hand that drilled it. There are no other options, no clean rooms, no trained minds to untangle the knots inside you. So this brutal, strange, bloody method is what passes for healing. And sometimes it really does work. Sometimes the headaches were caused by swelling. Sometimes a blow to the head trapped pressure that needed to be released. Sometimes infection built inside the skull, and that little circle of bone removed just enough to give the brain room to breathe. Of course, they didn't know that. They never said words like fluid or swelling or pressure on the cranial nerves. But somewhere along the way they saw it happen. Someone too far gone, then suddenly better. Not always, not predictably, but often enough that the practice stuck. And if someone survived, it became proof. They weren't just healed, they were cleansed. They had a mark on their head now, a sign that they had suffered and returned. Not everyone wanted the hole, but everyone respected it. In some places, people even asked for it. Not out of desperation, but devotion. They believed the hole made them more open to spirits, that it made vision stronger, dreams more vivid, thoughts more pure. The pain wasn't punishment, it was transformation. You aren't sure what you believe. You aren't sure if the pain you had before was worse than the pain you have now. But there's a stillness in your thoughts that wasn't there before. Maybe it's relief. Maybe it's damage. Maybe it doesn't matter. All you know is that the others are watching, not with pity anymore, but curiosity. And if another child begins crying without reason, if a neighbour starts speaking nonsense in the square, if someone begins to laugh too loud or sleep too long, there's only one answer they'll offer. It helped you. So maybe it will help them. The first week is the most dangerous. If you're lucky, the hole scabs over and the pain dulls into a deep, quiet throb. The cloth over your head stays mostly clean. You eat, you sleep, your fever breaks. No one says it out loud, but they begin to believe you'll live. If you're unlucky, things turn fast. The wound swells. Your skin around the hole grows hot, red and angry. Pus oozes where there should be blood. Your mind slips again, this time not with sadness, but with confusion. You forget where you are. You speak names that don't belong to anyone. You try to stand and fall before your knees even straighten. No one can help much once infection sets in. There are no antibiotics, no sterile dressings, just boiled herbs, prayer, and hope. The surgeon might come back with a scraping tool, or he might not come back at all. If you die, it won't be unexpected. But if you live, if your body claws its way back toward balance, then the village will remember it as a success. The fever will be blamed on the evil leaving your body. The pain, just part of the process. What matters is the outcome. You're quieter now, still, obedient, or maybe just exhausted. Some recover with a smooth patch of bone, skin grown back over it like a scar. Others never quite return. They walk slower, speak differently, react too fast or not at all. Something went missing in the hole. Maybe pain, maybe memory, maybe something that never had a name. You start to notice that not everyone talks to you the same. You're part of the community, but separate now. Watched. Respected in a strange, distant way. Children are told not to bother you. Adults lower their voices when you pass. You're a reminder, not just of madness, but of what it costs to remove it. Sometimes you feel normal. Other times the fog rolls in without warning. Loud noises make your vision swim. Your sleep is shallow. You wake often and can't remember why. There are moments when you catch yourself repeating the same word under your breath, over and over, like your mouth remembers something your mind doesn't. But you're alive. You've seen others who didn't make it. Bodies buried in silence. No mourning, no markers, just a wrapped cloth, a few murmured prayers, and dirt. Death after trepanning isn't spoken about much. When it fails, it's forgotten. When it works, it becomes legend. You begin to carry yourself differently, not by choice, but out of instinct. Slower movements, a quieter step, as if some part of you knows you're being watched, not with suspicion, but with curiosity. People wonder what it felt like, whether it helped, whether the pain was worth it. You could tell them, but you won't. Because even you aren't sure. The hole in your head may have closed, but it left something open. You survived. Time passes. The pain fades. People stop staring, or at least stop being obvious about it. Your life settles back into something like routine. But nothing is quite the same. Your head always feels a little different. Lighter on some days, heavier on others. Weather makes it worse. Sudden sounds still rattle you, and sometimes, when you touch the place where the hole was, there's a strange quiet behind it, like knocking on the wall of an empty room. But you're not the last. Others follow. You hear about it in nearby villages. Someone went mad, someone else wouldn't stop weeping, another kept having fits in church. The bench is used again. The drill keeps turning. And for a while, that's just how it is. Until slowly, it starts to fade. Not everywhere, not all at once. But change comes. Quiet at first, like everything else. A new kind of doctor starts to appear. One who doesn't carry blades in a leather roll, but books in his satchel. He talks about balance, yes, but not of humours. He talks about nerves, about blood flow, about things you can't see, but that somehow make more sense than spirits and demons. Trepanning doesn't disappear overnight. It lingers through the centuries, stubborn and strange. In some towns it becomes a superstition, something whispered about but rarely done. In others it becomes more refined, practiced not by barbers, but by physicians, in cities where Latin is spoken and instruments shine. Even there, though, the holes are smaller, the reasons more precise. By the 1600s, medicine begins to shift. People start cutting open cadavers instead of drilling open the living. Anatomy becomes science, not mystery. The skull is still opened, but only for injury, never for sadness. Trepanning becomes surgery, and surgery becomes something else entirely. But it never fully dies. Even in the modern world, the hole still appears, though under a different name and with cleaner hands. Craniotomies are performed in hospitals with sharp scalpels, anesthesia, glowing monitors, and machines that breathe for you. The reasons are real now. Brain tumours, swelling, trauma. Doctors know exactly where to cut and when to stop. And when they open the skull, they don't speak of demons. Still, some people, on the far edges of belief, have tried to bring it back. You'll hear stories one day, long after your time, of those who drill their own heads, at home, alone, in the name of clarity or spiritual awakening, or old ideas that should have stayed buried. They'll call it enlightenment. Others will call it madness. But the whole, in some strange way, continues to tempt. Maybe because it feels ancient. Maybe because it worked, just often enough to make people believe it could work again. But you're part of the age when it was normal, when it was prescribed, when it was feared, respected, and accepted. You lived through it, and as the candles dim, and the night deepens, and the cold wraps softly around your blanket, the world you came from, this world of drills and prayers, of blood and belief, starts to slip away. It wasn't a dream, it was history, and you had a hole in your head to prove it. Now I'll tell you another story. You are a monk living in the year 1173. Your world is made of stone floors, stone walls, and a stone silence that never quite goes away. You sleep on straw, wake in darkness, and follow a bell that tells you when to rise, when to eat, when to pray, and when to kneel. You do not speak unless spoken to. You do not laugh. You do not ask why. Your robe itches. Your sandals are worn. Your fingers are stained from ink and cold from scrubbing pots. Each day is the same. Prayers at dawn, chores in the garden, meals taken in silence while a single voice reads from scripture. You were told this life would bring peace, but your mind still wanders. A girl from the village delivers eggs. She smiles when she sees you. A widow comes to confess and her words are soft and slow. One night you dream of holding someone's hand, but when you wake your hands are folded in prayer. You try not to remember the dream. You try harder not to want it again. You are a monk, and even in a place with no mirrors, no music, and no women, temptation still finds a way in. Now, dim your lights, let the silence settle in, and join me in a quiet monastery deep in the countryside of 12th century France. You wake up cold, again. That's not surprising. Comfort is a sin around here, and warmth is considered a gateway drug. Your mattress is a thin sack of straw that smells like sheep and disappointment. The blanket doesn't cover your feet unless you curl like a dead spider, which, ironically, is frowned upon during morning prayer. Then it comes, the bell. A single iron groan from the tower above the chapel. It rings like a warning, not an invitation. Time to start another glorious day of silence, hunger, and scrubbing already clean floors. You rise before the other bodies stir, 20 shaved heads on 20 pillows, though calling them pillows is generous. They're more like slightly less painful rocks. You dress without speaking, not because you're holy, but because if you speak, someone will hear, and if someone hears, you'll be reassigned to latrine duty. Again, you splash your face with water from the stone basin. It's freezing, of course, colder than a nun's handshake. You dry your face on a communal towel that hasn't been fresh since the king before this one. Somewhere, someone sneezes. It echoes through the dormitory like a confession. Another bell. This one shorter, sharper. The sound of joy leaving the building. Time for prayer. You shuffle in line, feet padded in thin leather slippers, robes brushing the stone. No talking, not even a cough. The walls have ears, probably literal ones. Brother Albin swears he found an ear once in the mortar. No one asks follow-up questions. The chapel smells like incense, dust, and melted beeswax. You kneel in your spot, third row from the left behind Brother Mathieu, who hums off key, and begin the chant. You don't understand most of the Latin, but you mumble along like everyone else. That's the secret to holiness here. Mumble with conviction. Domine, exaudi orationem meme. You chant, you kneel, You rise. Your knees pop like old hinges. After prayer, the day begins. Corridor sweeping, your favourite. It's the same stretch of stone you swept yesterday, and the day before, and every day since the Lord invented boredom. You sweep dirt that doesn't exist with a broom that's more wishful thinking than tool. You pretend it matters. You try not to make eye contact with the mouse in the corner. He looks like he's judging you. At mid-morning, you're moved to the scriptorium. Time to copy Latin you don't read into books you're not allowed to question. You sit on a bench designed by sadists, hunched over parchment with a quill that leaks like it's mourning something. Ink stains your fingers. You scratch out the same prayer line 15 times. The irony is not lost on you. Brother Lucas, across the room, coughs dramatically every few minutes. No one reacts. Either he's been dying slowly for a decade, or he just likes the sound of his own suffering. The abbot says illness is God's trial. You think God might just be passive-aggressive. The next bell rings. Mealtime. You file into the refectory, sit in rows, and listen to Brother Jean read aloud from the Rule of St. Benedict, which is essentially don't enjoy things the gospel. Meanwhile, you eat a bowl of lukewarm cabbage stew and dry bread that may have once witnessed a miracle but not recently. No talking, of course, only chewing, the loud kind. Brother Etienne chews like he's trying to punish the bread for existing. You stare at your bowl and wonder if carrots are a myth. After lunch, more work. Today, it's the kitchens. You scrub pots that weren't used, because the abbot believes dirt collects spiritually. The logic here is like the theology, mysterious and firm. As the sun lowers, the air thickens with the smell of oil lamps and guilt. You return to the chapel, one last round of chanting, one more chance to impress a God who, by now, probably just wants some peace and quiet. Evening comes, you undress, fold your robe with holy precision, and lie down again on the straw sack of despair. No one says good night. The silence is part of the vow. You think about sleep. You think about bread. You think about what it might be like to laugh out loud without getting assigned 3 days of floor-scrubbing penance. And just before your eyes close, your mind does what it always does. It wanders, to warmth, to touch, to a name you once knew, to a smile you were never supposed to remember. Then the cold settles in again, and morning will come, because it always does, whether you're ready or not. Chapter 2. The Confession Days. Wednesdays are different. Not better, not worse, just different. On Wednesdays, the outside world arrives in pieces, wrapped in wool, smelling of earth and goats, and sometimes wearing perfume that no one dares mention. It's Confession Day. Women from the village come through the gates to speak their sins into carved wood and hope someone holier than them is listening. You're not one of the confessors. Not yet. You're still too green, too easily rattled, too likely to pass out if someone whispers the word desire too softly. Instead, you're assigned to the outer corridor, standing near the chapel door like a holy scarecrow. You nod when people enter. You nod when they leave. You try not to look anyone in the eyes, especially not the women. They shuffle in slowly, scarves over their hair, faces flushed from the cold or from something else. Some hold rosaries, some hold children, some look like they haven't confessed in years, some look like they already regret doing it today. You keep your eyes low. One of them, the one in the green shawl, stops near you, hesitating. Her hands shake slightly as she steps inside. She glances at you, just for a moment, and then vanishes into the chapel like mist under a door. You recognize her. Or rather, you recognize her voice. Later, as the confessions echo faintly through the old wooden screens, her words drift into the corridor. You're not trying to listen, but the walls are older than the monastery and just as cracked. She speaks softly. She speaks of a monk, not by name but with details. His eyes don't move like the others, she says. He looks at people when he thinks no one sees. She says she thinks about him at night. She says she dreams of him. You stop breathing. It could be anyone, but you already know who it is. Brother Albin. You've seen him glance too long during garden work. You've seen him kneel after prayer longer than the rest, as if trying to stay down until the thoughts pass. Once, during laundry duty, you found a torn scrap of parchment in his pocket, just the beginning of a psalm copied with too much care. The kind of detail you don't use for God, the kind of detail you save for remembering someone's voice. That night, Brother Albin skips dinner. You see him near the herb garden after Compline, sitting on the stone bench where the foxglove grows. His head is down, his hands are clenched. You don't approach. What would you say? The next day he's reassigned to night vigils, alone, 6 hours in the dark chapel every night while the rest of you sleep. No explanation is given, there never is. You don't see him cry, but you find the corner of his mattress damp the next morning. No one speaks of it. The rule says you must guard not only your body but your thoughts. You try to forget what you heard. You try to forget that it didn't shock you. You try to forget that part of you understands. The next Wednesday she doesn't come. You stand at the door again, staring at your feet, breathing in the scent of damp cloaks and wet wool. Someone coughs, a child cries, but her voice doesn't return. That night Brother Albin sings the wrong verse during evening prayer. No one corrects him. No one dares. Chapter 3. The Rule and the Flesh. The rule is everywhere. It's not just in the book. It's in your bed, your spoon, your steps, your thoughts. It tells you when to sleep, when to rise, when to speak rarely, and when to be silent, always. You were told it would bring peace. It mostly brings splinters. You live under the rule of St. Benedict, a sacred instruction manual for living like a saint and slowly going mad. It teaches obedience, poverty, silence, and of course, chastity. Ah, yes, that one. You were warned before you took your vows. You were told the body's a wild dog, hungry, stubborn, easily distracted by things it shouldn't sniff. So you gave up comfort, you gave up touch, you gave up your name, but your body didn't sign the vow. It just came along for the ride. You wake up one night, heart racing, hands clenched, your robe twisted around you like a rope. You don't remember the dream, or maybe you do, but you pretend not to. You untangle yourself in the dark and kneel beside your straw mattress. You pray the only prayer that seems honest anymore. Make it stop. Your voice doesn't make a sound, but your body still answers back. You try everything, more fasting, more kneeling. You volunteer for the worst chores, latrines, drainage ditches, sweeping the scriptorium after Brother Etienne sheds half his hair into the ink. You rub your hands raw in the laundry basin. You sleep on the floor, claiming your mattress has fleas. It does, but that's beside the point. You take cold baths that feel more like punishment than hygiene. Nothing works. Desire is a fog. It slips under doors. It waits in the corners of your mind and then blooms at the worst times. During prayer, during meals, during perfectly innocent discussions of vegetables in the garden. You begin to hate the way Brother Mathieu peels turnips. It feels suggestive. One evening you sit beside him shelling peas and he sighs heavily. Brother Gerard was found with a letter, he whispers, not looking at you, hidden in his robe. You raise an eyebrow. That's as close to open shock as monks are allowed to get. It was for a nun, Mathieu says, tossing a pea into the basket like it insulted him. From the convent near Rouen. He met her during a joint mass 2 winters ago. You nod slowly. You'd heard the story in vague mutterings, something about a missing book, a travel assignment, and Brother Gerard being moved for the health of his soul. But no one said nun. No one said letter. Was it love, you ask, instantly regretting the question. Brother Mathieu shrugs. It rhymed. That's all he says. The next day, during noon prayers, you glance toward Gérard's old spot. It's still empty. No one fills it. As if to leave room for the ghost of his intentions. After that, you don't ask about other monks, and you speak even less than usual, just in case someone is listening for signs of rhyme in your voice. The rule tells you to treat your body like a tool, one that must be sharpened, dulled, or cast aside as needed. But tools don't dream. Tools don't ache. You do. Sometimes during chapel, you stare too long at the flickering candles. You imagine what it would feel like to press your palm into the flame, not out of pain, out of trade, as if you could offer it something to burn instead of you. You whisper your confessions into straw and stone. You never say her name, not out loud, but she's there. The girl who brushed your hand at the gate, the one whose scarf was green, the one whose smile you've rewritten 100 times until it barely resembles her at all. You tell yourself you're strong. You tell yourself she probably forgot your face. You tell yourself this is just a trial, and if it is, you're failing it quietly. Chapter 5. The Day Beyond the Walls. It's just a letter. That's what the abbot says, though he doesn't need to say it. The way he hands it to you, sealed in wax, heavy with unseen weight, is enough. You're told to deliver it to the abbey 2 villages east, a journey that will take most of the day on foot. You're to return by nightfall, no delays, no detours, no excuses. You nod, you bow. You feel the weight of the wax seal like it might burn through your robe if you hold it too long. It's the first time in 2 years you've been allowed beyond the gate. The path winds through bare trees and wet leaves. The air smells of smoke, sheep, and damp soil. You pass farmers with sunburned faces, women hauling baskets of roots, children chasing chickens with reckless joy. They don't look at you the way the brothers do. They smile, some with curiosity, some with recognition, and one with something you don't want to name. The village isn't large. It smells like spilled ale, wet hay, and roasted meat. There's music playing somewhere, a thin melody plucked from a string, barely in tune. You haven't heard music in so long it feels like a sin just to notice. People stare, not unkindly, but not reverently either. You're a monk, and that means something, but not everything. Not here. Here, you're just a man in a robe, walking through mud, clutching a letter like it might bite you if you let go. You pass a woman sweeping her doorway. She pauses, brushing hair from her face with the back of her hand. There's something in the way she moves that stirs an ache you've spent months trying to suffocate beneath linen and prayer. She watches you go, not with boldness, but with that quiet curiosity you've come to fear more than open lust. Curiosity is harder to explain away. A boy calls out a name as you pass. It takes a moment to realize it's yours, your old name, the one you buried when you took the robe. You don't respond, you don't even look. But the sound rings in your skull for the rest of the walk. The abbey accepts the letter with little ceremony. You bow, exchange nods, and turn back toward the road before anyone can ask questions or offer you wine. The sun is beginning to lower. The journey back will be colder. You pass a market stall where a girl sells dried apples. Her sleeves are rolled to her elbows and her fingers are stained red from cutting fruit. She offers you one, holding it out with a grin you pretend not to see. You don't take it, but you do think about it for the next 3 miles. The path is quieter on the return. The trees stretch longer in the fading light. Shadows pool in the ditches. Somewhere in the distance a dog barks once and falls silent. You grip your robe tighter and walk faster. By the time you reach the monastery gate, your feet ache and your stomach growls. The bell is ringing. The door is already being closed for the night. You slip inside just in time. The air feels colder here, the walls closer, the silence sharper than before. No music, no smells, no eyes on your face. Just stone, candlelight, and rules. You return to your cell and sit on the edge of the straw mattress, peeling off your shoes slowly, one by one, as if to delay the moment the day becomes memory. You lie down, and the ceiling looks smaller than it did this morning. You think of the woman sweeping her step, the child's voice calling your name, the apple. You try to forget, but the memories hang on you like smoke. Not sinful, not wicked, just warm. And that warmth is dangerous. You close your eyes, you fold your hands, you whisper a prayer, not for strength, but for silence. And outside, beyond the monastery walls, the world keeps moving. Loud, messy, full of colour you're no longer allowed to name. Chapter 6. The Quiet Collapse. Winter comes early this year. The mornings begin in darkness, and they stay there. The bell rings the same as it always has, but now it echoes deeper. The stone beneath your feet feels colder. The robes take longer to dry. The candles are lit earlier. The prayers feel heavier in the throat. You wake with aches in places you didn't know could ache. Your fingers are stiff from ink and frost. Your knees complain when you kneel. Your back speaks in soft, constant protests whenever you bend to sweep the floor. None of this is unusual. Pain is expected here. Pain is predictable. But lately, even your pain feels tired. Your days blur into one another like ink on damp parchment. Chant, clean, eat, kneel, work, pray, sleep, and again, and again, and again. You forget how many days it has been since you went outside the walls. You forget what season it was the last time someone looked at you and meant it. You forget the sound of your own voice when it's not whispering in Latin or confessing to God. You try to hold the rule like a lantern, but the light it casts grows dim. You find yourself staring longer at the window during prayers, watching frost form delicate maps along the glass. Sometimes you imagine following them, tiny roads etched in ice, leading anywhere but here. You try not to dream, but the dreams come anyway. They bring faces, familiar ones. A woman at a gate, a voice behind a screen, a girl in a market stall, her sleeves rolled to the elbow, her fingers red from fruit. You never hear what she says. The dreams don't speak. They just look. You wake sweating. You wake hungry. You wake with clenched fists and the taste of longing behind your teeth. You kneel. You beg forgiveness. You fast. But nothing lifts. The brothers around you carry on. Some with stiff discipline. Some with dull obedience. A few with that unnerving, permanent smile that always looks one breath away from collapse. Brother Etienne drops a jug in the refectory and doesn't even flinch. The pieces scatter across the floor. He just stares at them, as if waiting for them to reassemble themselves out of shame. Brother Mathieu sings the wrong line during Vespers and then keeps going, eyes closed, lips trembling like he's not even here anymore. Brother Albin no longer kneels the longest. He just sits and stares and blinks like a man watching something fall apart that no one else can see. You don't say anything, of course. No one does. No one ever does. Then, one evening, your hand begins to shake. You're copying a psalm. Your quill dips, your fingers twitch, and a line of ink streaks across the page like a crack through a stained glass window. You try again. Another shake. The words blur. Your breath grows shallow. You close the book. You sit very still. You try to tell yourself it's nothing, just cold, just fatigue, just a tremor from kneeling too long in the chapel or lifting too many buckets from the well. But deep down, you know, this is not a tremor. This is something else. That night you do not sleep. The blanket offers no warmth. The straw offers no comfort. You lie flat on your back, staring at the ceiling beams, and feel something in you give way. Not loudly, not with drama, but with the same sound a wet rope makes when it finally snaps under its own weight. In the morning you go to the chapel long before the bell rings. You kneel in the shadows and try to pray. But the words won't come, not because you've forgotten them, but because for the first time in years you realize you're not sure who you're praying to, or why. You stay like that for hours. Eventually the abbot enters. You don't hear his steps. You only notice the shift in air, the sound of robes moving behind you. He doesn't speak. He just sits beside you. You do not look at him. He does not look at you. The silence settles between you like a blanket. Heavy, worn, familiar. You stay that way until the candle burns down. When you finally rise, your legs are stiff. Your eyes burn. Your hands are steadier than they've been in weeks. You return to your cell. You sleep. And in your dream, no one is watching. Chapter 7. The Choice to Stay. The letter comes in the morning, folded beneath a fresh cloth on the refectory bench. No one speaks as you pick it up. No one needs to. The wax seal is broken, the edges smudged by the hands that delivered it. It's from your brother. You read the lines slowly, tracing each word like it might vanish if you move too fast. He is ill. Not dying, not yet, but weakening. He asks you to come, just for a day. He says he remembers the sound of your voice. He says your mother still sets a place for you at supper, just in case. You fold the letter in half, then into quarters. You don't pray before responding. You simply hand it to the abbot, who reads it without expression and nods once. Permission is granted. Just one day. No delays, no distractions. The monastery door closes behind you. The road is drier now, the trees thinner. The village hasn't changed, but your eyes have. You walk past a man cutting firewood and realize you've forgotten how loud the world is, how messy, how alive. The marketplace is louder than you remember. Barrels thump against stone, chickens squawk beneath carts, a boy shouts something across the square, and a woman answers with laughter so free it stings your ears. The scent of roasted meat coils through the air like incense from a forgotten god. You pass a stall where someone is selling pears. The fruit glistens in the sun. Your stomach aches at the sight of it. You see your brother near the well, seated on a stool, wrapped in a wool coat that doesn't quite cover his knees. His face is thinner than it once was, but his smile is still whole. You sit beside him. You stay for hours. You help gather firewood. You help patch the roof. You eat bread that tastes like it was made with care, not obligation. A girl stops by with herbs from the hills. She offers you a sprig of thyme and asks how long you're staying. You give no answer, but she keeps looking at you like she already knows. That night, you sleep in your brother's house. There is laughter around the hearth, children running past your knees, a woman placing bowls with the ease of repetition. No one mentions your robe. No one asks what you've lost. But in the silence of the room, when the fire dims and the stories end, you lie awake beneath a blanket that smells of earth instead of wax, and you realize you're still holding your breath. In the morning, your brother is still sleeping when you rise. You step outside before the sun has warmed the air. The road back is waiting. The monastery gate is hours away. You begin walking, slowly at first, then faster. The trees close around you once more. The quiet grows with every step. You reach the edge of the woods and stop. Ahead is the gate. Beyond it, silence, ritual, stone. Behind you, colour, hunger, memory. A world that does not wait for vows to be kept. You stand there longer than you mean to. You think about her. Green shawl, crooked smile, the way her hand brushed yours for half a second at the garden gate. You think about the face behind the confessional screen, the apple at the market, the warmth of your brother's fire, and then the bell. It rings just faintly over the trees, not a command, not a plea, just a sound, familiar, steady, something that has never forgotten you. You breathe in the cold air and step through the gate. No one is waiting on the other side, no questions, no judgment, just a bench in the cloister where Brother Massieu is already peeling turnips again. You join him. He does not look up. You take a knife and you work. You don't speak. You don't smile. But your hands are steady. And for now, that's enough. Sleep well now, brother. The bells will wake you soon enough. And tomorrow, like every day, your vow will be waiting, right where you left it.